I ended up going to prison. I went to the reception center, which was in Las Lunas. I have the gift of gab. So I ended up talking into putting me in a level 2 in Las Lunas. And once I got to that level 2 in Las Lunas, I started picking up the clippers. And I noticed they had a barber gig over there. I ended up getting into that barber gig. I ended up cutting hair over at the level 2.
What does that mean, a barber gig? Like a training program, or like where you actually get a license? Or
no, when I the state prison's really impoverished. When I showed up to the state prison and got to RDC, they did all the classification. Then they sent me over to Las Lunas. And when I got there, they said, you have to work. It's a level 2 is a working camp, supposedly. Okay. So like, if you don't want to work, they'll shoot you to a 3. And so, I wasn't going to work. I refused to go in the kitchen when I first got there. And then they said, well, what do you do? And I said, barber. And he's all, well, we have a barber position if you want to go in the barber shop. So I ended up going into the barber shop, cutting hair. I was still a fool. I was bringing in all kinds of stuff. We were partying in there. I brewed a bunch of hooch one night. We got caught with it. They kicked me out, sent me to the hole, me and my roommate. My roommate ended up going back to that level 2 camp. They shot me to a separate camp to separate us or whatever. I went into Santa Fe, did the same thing, cut hair. But all of a sudden, the staff wanted me to cut their hair. So I started becoming a staff barber. Some idiot took issue with that. I got into a fist fight over there in that level 2. That ended up removing me, and I ended up going to a level 3. And that was in Las Cruces.
What was level 3 like?
The level 3 was real prison. Right. So like the level 2 is a joke. Like right. It was a joke beyond a joke. It's, you got cops over there saying, get on your bunk, go sit down, go eat. It's weird. When I got to the 3, I was happy I was in the 3. And so the 3, you know, there's lifers there, there's this and that. It's just more prison related. It was more mimicked my county jail. And ended up going through that level 3. This is the roller coaster that, you know, it sucks. I don't want anyone to behave like I did. I stayed in that level 3, ended up getting into a big riot. There's a group called the S&M, and they're Sindicato Nuevo Mexico, and they're a prison gang. We ended up giving them the boot off of the yard. And so it was a big old riot. I ended up getting sent to the level 6 in Santa Fe from that riot. They gave me, I was one of the first in Cruces to do what's called the level system. And the level system just meant now you went to a level 6 facility. I did a year in the level 6. Once you did a year clear conduct in Supermax level 6, then they would move you to the level 5, which is still Supermax. You come out 5 hours a week. And so, and I did a year there. I did 1 year in 6, 1 year in 5. And then I went and did a year in level 4. Level 4 was hardcore, man. Level 6 was hardcore for sure. You had, look, I'll even give you a roster of a rundown. You had the guy who did the Hollywood video murders. You had a sergeant at arms for the S&M. I was in between him and a commander of the S. They both were already ready to kill me because of what we did in Cruces. So, I mean, they had put me in, I got sent to the old death row unit just for the luck of the draw. So I went to 3A. I was in a cell called S109. I was in S-Pod 109. A lot of people will know that unit. And, no, I just sat there. I did the time, did all that time, went to the level 4. The level 4 now is a 6 with the doors open. So, I mean, you can't get to a level 4 unless you've went to a 6 or 5.
Okay.
Like they won't just shoot you to a 4. You have to almost go do the level system or go to a higher level to be able to get into the 4. And so the 4 now is, you know, the 4 was a no hands policy. So meaning there's no physical altercation. You have older men on the yard that are gang leaders and they
shot callers. Right?
Yeah, they have it set real simple. If you have any issue on that yard, which you shouldn't, go ahead and you take care of it like that. And
right, you come talk to us, but you can't just handle it yourself.
No,
it causes a whole riot.
Yeah.
So how long were you there? Well, you've been going year to year to year, so you should be done. Aren't you done?
I mean, so I got 5 years in prison, remember? So I went to Las Lunas. I spent a month there, just to give you on the time frame. I spent a month there in Las Lunas in the reception. And then as soon as you left the reception, it took about 3 weeks, about a month in the reception. And then I went straight over to the level 2. I spent about 8 months in that level 2. And then I went to the hole. And then I went to Santa Fe. I spent 8 months to a year in Santa Fe, maybe a year, maybe even a little bit longer. Then I got into that fight, went to the level 5 on pending transfer hold, not as a level 5 inmate at that time, just as a disciplinary, but in the level 5. So I got to slightly experience it. And then I spent about 90 days there until I got transported to the level 3 in Cruces. I spent about a year in Cruces. and then got into that big, huge riot in Cruces, then went to the level 6 as an official level 6 inmate, and then spent a year there. And then went to the 5 and spent a year. So I'm saying you got 3 years.
You're almost at 5 right now.
Yeah. Look, you spent, so I look at it like this. In Los Lunas, you got there in 2003. And you probably spent 6 months there. You probably spent 6 months in Santa Fe. So that was probably a year. And then you spent, a year in the other camps.
But they didn't have to let you out at 5. You had to do 5, but you could do more. You're losing gang time? Are you losing good time this whole time?
I spent 5 years, 8 months in prison, by the way. Okay. I spent 1,827 days, so I spent 8 months longer than my sentence.
And that was because of no?
No, not due to anything that I did. It was, they had a backlog of inmates at that time. It was super packed. You could look it up. They almost got sued for it. And a lot of people were getting out late. I was getting out on parole. It wasn't like I was getting out with nothing.
Right.
And you were eating your parole time while you were still in there.
Okay.
Because you remember I got sentenced to 1 to 10 with a 5-year cap, meaning it was supposed to only be 5 in prison. I spent 5 years, 8 months in prison, right. But that 8 months shaved off of the 5 years that I spent out on the street.
Yeah, there was some famous case in the feds where they kept a guy for an extra year or 18 months or something, just by accident, like they just missed it.
Oh, so you know what? Really, now that I'm remembering, why I stayed a little bit longer was when I had finally left all the 4 and everything, and I went to a regular level 3 yard. I went to a place called Hobbs, New Mexico, and I was supposed to get released in there. I was already ready to get released, and so one night in Hobbs, they call a big, huge move list, and they're opening a new prison in Clayton, a notorious prison, and somehow I'm on the damn move list. I only got a month left, and I get on the move list. Well, when they moved me to Clayton, all of a sudden they tell me at Clayton, we have to be open 1 year before we could release any inmates. So now I have to go on a transport back to Hobbs to get released. So that's what made me stay there for 8 more months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when you were released on parole, is parole basically like probation?
Well, I was released on probation and parole because the 5 years, you're only doing 2 years of parole. I had 5 years when I got out, minus the 8 months that you had done over the stay, but 2 years of parole and then 3 more years of the probation. So I'm saying I was on concurrent with parole and probation at the same time. So in other words, when I first checked in, you still had that year and a half of parole. Since you ate into some of it, you still had a year and something on parole, but it was mixed in with the probation as well. Once you're done with the parole, then you would go to a different office and it would just be probation.
Okay. Well, I'm saying what's the difference? Well, I'm saying I understand that they're called different things, but I'm saying, is it basically the same thing? Or on parole, do you have an ankle monitor, or are they watching? Do you have harsher? I don't think we've had anybody that's on parole.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Most of it's probation. Is it harsher than being on paper?
Yeah, but it's better. I didn't want to leave parole. I graduated. I was doing great on parole, and the lady was super strict. You checked in 5 days a week. When you went down to regular probation, you only checked in once a month.
What's the difference?
The difference of what?
Between probation and parole.
The difference of probation and parole is, I guess parole, you're still in the custody of the Department of Corrections.
Okay.
So you could sneeze the wrong way and go back. On probation, they have to violate you.
Okay, it's like being kind of like that's how it is in the halfway house. Like if you could do anything, they'd just be like, oh, they fill out a piece of paper and you're gone because you're still in BOP custody.
Yes, that's what parole is.
Right.
But that's exactly what parole is.
But if you're on paper, you can up and it's a whole process. And then they have to convince a judge to send you
and
back.
You go to a probation trial hearing, or in the parole, none of that. It's you get violated. They give you a hearing, but you're gone.
Yeah.
So it's like that. And so, that was.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you got out, what did you do for work? Did you go straight and did you become a barber and try and do the barber thing immediately? Or did you have to, did you get placed in a job, or how did you graduate?
Yeah. When I got out, my mother was nice enough to say, hey, you can come stay with me as a grown ass man. She lived in a place called Rio Rancho. Parole had to have a damn ankle bracelet, which I didn't know. And they said, you can't go to Rio Rancho because it's outside of your county. You must be in Bernalillo County, which is in Albuquerque. Okay. And so I had to go to a halfway house. And so I went to some bogus halfway house with a bunch of pieces of junk and sat around there, and they're all using and they're low life losers. And so I was like, God, look, when I got out,
Don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
I feel like they suck. And so I felt like they were all losers. And so, and they were. And so was I. And so what I did was, at that point, I really understood and said, I do not, after this horrible stuff and all the stuff that I did, and I don't want to go back. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to get a job, man. And I went over to, my dad used to work at a grocery store. So I was like, I'll go to Smith's and see if I can get a job. Went in there. No. Armed robbery. No. I ended up dumbing it all the way. I call centers. I went all the way down to like Taco Bell. Went in to apply. No. Went to Walmart. No. Everyone's, oh, well, convicted felons, they get a tax break. They'll hire you at Walmart. They ain't hiring me. And so the answer was no. So one guy that was at that halfway house that happened to be somewhat smart, he said, hey, how come you don't go to school? And I was like, for what? And he's like, well, dude, you're going to get violated. You have 30 days to find employment. If you don't find employment in 30 days, you go back. And part of that employment is either half-time employment, half-time school, or full-time school or full-time employment. I decided to want to go full-time employment because I wanted to make money. I could not find a job. So I ended up going to C&M. I ended up going and getting an unsubsidized and subsidized loan. I ended up going into school. I stayed at C&M.
What's C&M?
C&M is a Central New Mexico Community College.
Okay.
Just a Heel college. And I went there, I hung out there, I took a bunch of courses. I stayed there for 4 years. I stayed there for about 8 months to a year in school, getting a fitness tech degree. And when I stayed there, all of a sudden, I had done martial arts like since I was a kid, and I'd done a lot of martial arts on the street when I was running the streets. And so I was like, oh, cage fighting came up. So I was like, oh, I asked my PO, do you think I'd be able to take a fight? You know, I'm friends with a lot of guys in the UFC. And so I was like, and they're still buddies with me to this day. So, I mean, I get good training. I'm like, hey, if I take a fight, will that constitute as a job? And she says, oh, absolutely. And I said, well, I'd like to do halftime school then. And I want to go ahead and do halftime fighting. I moved into Greg Jackson's, one of the biggest martial arts camps in the world. John Jones goes there. All these guys go there. I ended up being the only one on parole living there in the dorms and waking up and fighting every morning. My last fight was in 2012 for King of the Cage.
Okay, so real quick, how are you paying for this? Like you said, you got a loan. Is this like student loan?
Student loan.
Are you getting Pell Grants?
I got a Pell Grant, and then I got 2 student loans, one unsubsidized and one subsidized. So I got like 10,000 in student loans, and then and I'm poor. Remember, at this point, all my stuff's been stripped from me. All the stuff that I owned, everything was gone.
But that'll pay the student loans. Well, you're not going to live like a king, but it'll pay your bills.
I was in a halfway house, man, paying $400 a month. It was cheap. Yeah. So, I mean, I was really easy to live. And then and then when I moved over to Greg Jackson's, I got to stay there for free. And so, you know, I didn't pay any rent. I swept the mats, I cleaned up, I fought, I trained, I did all of that, and everything was going really good. And all of a sudden, one of the UFC guys had said, I was cutting all their hair in the gym, just continuously. And one of the guys was like, how come you don't get your barber license? And I kept thinking, dude, I don't want to be broke. I'm trying to go into the UFC like you guys so I can make some money. And that was my main thing. I tried to get on the season of The Ultimate Fighter, and a couple of the buddies from Albuquerque won that show. And I didn't get onto the show. So I started realizing, God, it's just not happening for me. And so I said, well, what's up with this barber journey? And so I was like, you know, and I said, it's probably, so I went and checked out a buddy that had a barber shop that some of the UFC fighters were going to at the time. They all ended up going to a big UFC event one weekend. And he says, hey man, can you stay back and cut some hair? And I said, well, sure, I would love to. I had the passion for cutting hair. I didn't even ever want to charge. I just wanted to cut your hair the whole time in prison. I just had I love cutting hair. And so I stayed back. I cut hair. I made $300 that day. I thought it was 300,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you already love doing it, then how did you not put together that, hey, this is something I can make a decent I can make a legitimate legal limit, and they're not broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, no offense, but every time I've ever gone I feel like I'm getting robbed. I mean, it's always like $25, $30, and it's like $30, and I charge
55 plus tax in my shop right now. I also run that prison barber shop, but before I got the prison barber job, I would take the straight razors and those little orange razors that they give, and I did haircuts in the pod. And so, you can do that as well and start there.
Yeah, there's usually at least one guy or two guys that are in the
doing razor fades
in the unit that are doing, or they would have in the feds. They used to have the actual shavers, right? And so they're still around. They don't sell them anymore, at least not in the places I was.
Yeah, the Norocos.
But they still have. But guys still have them, and they're expensive. But these guys will use them. They'll go. You'll walk in the. Or it depends on where you are. But if in the low, you'd walk in the bathroom, the guy would have his chair there, and you'd have
put a trash bag around his head.
Yeah.
How much is a haircut? What was it back then to pick your brain?
It was probably $4, $5.
And was that in the feds?
That was in the feds.
So the feds is more high end than the state for sure. And the feds was $4. We were about $2 at that time. Yeah. Just to give you an idea, like $2 though, at 50 cents an item back then. I do not know what the items go for today, but I'm saying like Nutty Bar, Honey Bun, they're 50 cents an item back then. That's 4 items. Back then, when you had nothing, that you're making off one haircut. I did a haircut in like 15, 20 minutes.
I was going to say, that's a lot of money.
So you're coming back with a bag of store at the end of the day.
Does every prisoner get the same haircut?
No, that is a myth. These prisoners want it all. Yeah. And so it's like these prisoners, there's no hard part, comb over, razor fade, double, triple hard part. It's like they're swearing that, they're going on a date that night. Yeah. So it's like, I'm bald, so you know what I mean? But yeah, no, they want it all.
They would have the pictures up in the barber's shop at Coleman. They'd have like 4 pictures up that you could pick from, but nobody was going with any of those fucking photos.
Yeah, no.
Like they're all wanted something different.
They want something outlandish and crazy. And we don't use scissors in there. Guys ask, hey, TJ, you don't use scissors in there. How do you do the haircut? Just with clippers, man. You could get the top of the hair, pull it up, and cut it just like that, with the clippers. You shear over comb, guys. Shear over finger if there's no comb.
Can you trust a bald barber?
No. Not. Hey, you know what, though? Geez, that is a good question. Can you trust a bald barber? God, I would almost look at it like in reality, I guess the barber doesn't have to have hair to be good at his craft.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah, the joke is he doesn't. You can't have the joke is you don't trust a bald barber because he doesn't respect your hair. Isn't that the joke? Have you ever heard that?
I've heard similar things like that. It's funny. It's like I'm looking up. Every now and then I'm looking at videos about hair transplants and things like that. And like some of these guys that are giving this advice are bald.
Yeah,
and that's what the comment section say. Like,
and I like that comment section because that's kind of an that's kind of an oxymoron. It's like you're bald and you're giving hair advice, but we can say yes, you're allowed to be bald and give hair advice because as long as you have a license or you read the book or you do know what you're speaking of, you're allowed to do that. But it'd be weird like a tattoo artist who has no tattoos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or a skinny chef
lacking validity.
Yeah. Did you have any overwhelming feedback from any of your other interviews in the comment section? Like as far as like people pointing out or saying certain things?
Hey man, all the guys in the comments could kiss my royal ass. And that's some real, you keep staying in the comments. I want to hear all that. And so, yeah, no, I've heard this and that in the comments. And look, my shop's right there in Albuquerque. I'm on Manal in Wyoming. You want to come by, just come over. I don't see the comment section being a big thing. Yeah. You want to do it professionally, we can go to Jackson's, whatever you want.
And what are you posting on social media? Like if someone goes to your Instagram, what are they going to see?
Thomas Baca Barber on Instagram, guys. And you're going to see haircuts. You're going to see me giving mentorship. You're going to see me talking about skills for success, talking about how to grow a business, and really a lot of haircutting on my channel. I have a YouTube channel that has 3 million views, and they're all Thomas Baca Barber. And on that one, I do just strictly haircuts. That's what they like. On my YouTube, on my Instagram, I'm a little bit more, with mentorship, haircuts, and a few other things mixed in. Some UFC fighters on there. You guys want to see the UFC fighters and see if it's real? Go look at their profile, and then they have pictures of me cutting their hair on theirs, and then also go to mine, and you can see it all.
What are your thoughts on Vic Blends? Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, my thoughts on Vic Blends is he's nothing, and he's also fake. Sorry, guys. I'm just telling the truth. Vic Blends isn't real. Vic Blends is, I just see it as, it's just not, it isn't, Vic Blends is cutting the president's hair. But he's not having real conversation. Vic Blends is, He's too polite. I want to have a real channel. I want you to see the real deal. I want to, you know what I mean? You get the president there, I'm going to act the same way as I act here.
I don't know. Who is that?
He's probably like,
he's real famous for sure.
He's real famous. He's probably 30 years old. He's probably my age, and
millions of views.
Yeah. He's cut famous people's hairs, but he's white guy. He's tatted. And he'll like be on the street cutting people's hair.
Yeah, but he's also, so look, you guys want to talk Vic Blends? He's also, you want to get real about it? He's the brother barber. So what about me, the Chicano barber? He cuts all the black's hair. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying he's a black barber. Look at him. Look at the way he talks. Look at where he's from. I'm different. So look for my videos.
What's the difference between white hair, black haircuts, white haircuts, black haircuts, and Hispanic or whatever? Because I remember one time I went to me and my buddies from college. I was on a football team, so 75% of my friends were all black in college, and we all went to the barbershop our first summer there, and it's a black barbershop. They all got fades or whatever they got, and then I sat in the chair and I told them, yeah, two on the sides and just blend in on the top. And the barber sat there and he's like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. He's like, I can't do this for you. So what is the difference between all the different races' haircuts?
The difference is the texture of the hair. So when you have straight hair and you cut into that straight hair, it will sit differently or it will react differently to the cut. If you have very curly hair, there's techniques to use to have it come out equally as elite. It's the texture in the hair that's different. A little story, I was the first black barber in the state of New Mexico in prison that was allowed to cut black hair, also allowed to cut the cops' hair. Chauncey Johnson, a black barber that was leaving, and Eugene Galloway ended up blessing me with the job. I was the one to go ahead and take that black crowd. I'm a big believer in, though, you should start off on black hair. If you start off on black hair, it'll strengthen every bit of haircut that you're going to ever do. So another little secret to the barbers out there, learn on black hair. And if you learn on black hair, you'll be a better barber.
First of all, I don't know where you're getting these questions. And secondly, I don't know. Where are you guys seeing these videos?
They like that stuff
hair?
for some reason. Those questions that because it's like for some.
Yeah, these could like little
Vic Blends
clips.
is famous.
Yeah,
I mean,
Vic
it's
Blends.
Yeah, I'm not hip at all.
No,
I don't
no.
know anything. I don't know anybody.
And he's nothing to you because I'm saying he's not in your. Trust me. He ain't.
Right, well, I'm saying too. The other thing about like the haircuts, like I never get. The only videos I have of haircuts that have ever shown up on my thing is that there was a barber who was shaving this chick's hair who had cancer, and then he shaves his hair. Bro, I almost
That's a testimony to who you are.
Bro.
Now that you linked to me, they're going to start showing up. I wish I would have brought my clippers to cut your hair, and I brought my scissors, but those don't do any good. I spin them too. But I really wish I would have brought my clippers to give you a haircut. That would have been amazing to me.
Listen, I need a haircut. Like it's like I wait till
I wish I would have brought those.
Have to have a haircut before I go. I wait till
you got great hair, dude. I
it.
can see how your hair is. I would take about a 1/4 inch off the top. I'd have it nice and cleaned up. Keep the sideburns there. You can get a nice haircut. You got that high end hair. I can easily, dude. You would have been mind blown.
This is fake. This is from the back of my head. I've had 2 hair transplants.
Are you serious? Yeah. That looks great.
Yeah, I need one more.
Are you serious, dude?
Colby and I may be going to Turkey.
Yeah, we may be going to Turkey. So
I know someone that went to Turkey out of my shop.
How was the results?
Amazing. Like literally went because he was really bald. And so when he came back with a little bit less than you, but it still looked phenomenal.
Does he still have his liver? Because I was told by Julian Dory, who has a channel called Julian Dory. He said, if you go to Turkey, he goes, you're going to end up getting kidnapped and somebody's going to take your liver.
Oh my God. No, he still has his liver.
No. Okay, well, there you go. See? Julian,
he still has his liver. I'm telling you right now, he has the liver. It's not going to happen.
Cauliflower ear. So does that happen from one impact or just impact over time?
Cauliflower ear happens over a magnitude of years. And it's also called the medical term for it is polychondrial hematoma. It's when coagulates in between the skin and the cartilage. You have to be in 1,000 fights for that to happen.
But it's only in the one ear.
And so when you wrestle and just pretend that you're taking a shot, from the right side, you might get it more, your ear's leaning on your hip.
Right. And
so it comes from friction and also from a lot of contact. Yeah, a lot of guys will get it on one ear. A lot of guys will get it on 2 ears. A lot of guys will get it more on one ear. I still have some in here, but for the most part, a lot on here.